Hello, welcome to another episode of Honest to a Malt with Tupuds, aka Mike, because his surname's become first name. His first name is now less known than his nickname, and me, Duncan, still yet unnicknamed, or just having such a strong name that I don't need a nickname.
It's my secret agent. My identity is safe.
So, Mike, Tupuds, what's the name of the episode today?
So we have hit our quarter century. We're on episode 25.
225.
Well, not 225, just 25.
Not 225, not.
That's way into the future. Oh, yeah. Good drop. Yes, and today's episode is called Dice, Maybe.
Dum 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 dum. There we go. We'll get to why we've called it Dice, Maybe later on in the pod, which will probably be about 25 minutes' time.
Yeah,
going in our general format. So huge thanks to Michael Omri. Now he has formally requested everyone to start saying his surname in the correct French way.
He's thinking about changing it on Dpol to drop the H.
Just an apostrophe at the start. Yeah. It's just E-N-R-Y. Apostrophe E-N-R-Y. Anyway, thanks so much. We had really good feedback on that episode. And hopefully Graham Cool from Dingle is going to be coming on late November. Yep. So we should have another really jam-packed, interesting episode with, one of the people behind the whiskey. Yeah. We're also, I think we'd like to have on some female guests. So we should organise that.
We definitely need to.
Thanks for you guys for listening. Just as a bit really quickly, I think we've got over 100 followers on Spotify now, and I don't know, 50-ish on Apple, and I think we're closing on 5,000 plays. That's thanks to you. Yeah. Much appreciated, and all the people that have given us like 5 stars. Again, thanks very much.
Keep it going.
Yeah, and also for the engagement. There was some really good engagement on the last episode with Michael, who came online mostly on Twitter or X, which is where we are at. On @Whiskey Tip and @Whiskey Wings.
And Honest to a Malt.
And obviously Honest to a Malt, yeah, thanks. So, what has been in your glass in the last few days? 10 days, right, since the last pod.
What's been in my glass for most of those 10 days? Water.
Yeah. What have you been drinking, Mike, my friend?
Stop. Mike.
Then this is day 2 of having a dram. So I had my first alcoholic drop yesterday.
Right.
It's not for health reasons that we talked about previously with losing weight. No, it's for health reasons because I have the back of an 80-year-old and yeah.
Is it true that you farted and that's how you put your back
No,
up?
less or more embarrassing, I should say. Less strenuous than farting. I leaned forward in work to plug in a laptop charger and got sniped. Literally.
How far did you lean?
It was a good 2.5 foot. It wasn't even a deep clean. So
you sat down at the time?
Sat down, just got in, put my bags down and stuff, sat there, hello.
What are the chances on the last pod we're talking about sort of rugby injuries and how they'll
Exactly.
I made a joke about people not being able to get out of the car because their back's gone, and then you've done your back sitting at a desk trying to plug in a laptop.
And then couldn't get in a car, as I had to get my pregnant wife to pick me up from the station because I couldn't make it back.
Mike was in bed sort of for a few days. You were sort of bed laden.
I'm bed laden now.
I've
literally, this is
the
longest I have been stood up in ages. So, it's dedication for you guys. I've got a lot of painkillers in me.
To make Michael feel better, to make Mike feel better, that's what happens when you have guests on the podcast with a really similar name. To make Tupuds feel better, I'm also standing up. So out of solidarity, I'm standing up as well.
So it feels like a chat strange. Outside a pub now. It feels like we're leaning against the wall.
Or as I mentioned to you earlier, like if you remember those boy band videos when during the key change they would all stand up out of their seats.
Suddenly stand.
Yeah, like Boyzone or something. They'd all get up for the key change.
Except they're not leaning over using a desk for support.
Are you leaning on
I'm leaning on a desk, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it's the troubles I go to. But I mean, I'm on the mend. It might take a little while, but I'll get there. It's all good. We're all good.
Okay, well, I think everybody wishes that you stay in pain for a bit longer. So
For once, I'm the negative one on this side of the pod, so you're gonna have to come up with something good. So, what's been in your glass this week? And what's new?
Well, yeah, I can carry the team on this one, no probs.
You got the back for it.
Yeah, I literally could. Where to start? What's been in my glass? Andrew Pab whiskey. I'm still getting through his samples. I've previously never liked Kilhoman.
Yep.
Something like a bit of an aftertaste there, and that sort of farmyardness, which I just not fond of. But he gave me a
the Saneg
2020. No, it was a 2020 festival edition, 12-year-old bourbon, 54.2%, and actually very crisp, very fresh. It still had that afternote, but it didn't bother me as much as it did. And I think that's the 9th one I've tried from Kilhoman. So maybe I'm coming around. I still wouldn't pick it as my. It would be the least favorite of my Isla.
Oh, I love it. I really like the stuff. Like,
yeah, but I wouldn't be adverse to now picking it from a bar to have a dram.
Yeah.
You know, especially if it's like bourbon cask. So that was quite interesting. I bought the Master of Malt Secret Isla, 10-year-old, 59%.
You're allowed to tell people it's a secret.
Well, no one's going to know what it is, but I had a guess, and people are going to tell me I'm probably way off. But I mean, maybe you might have an idea about this. So it's very creamy, very medicinal peat, very medicinal peat.
It's Lafroig.
That's what I said, Lafroig, and also even like the percentage stacks up. Often those kind of cask strength Lafroigs are around 59 to 61%, and it has like yellow pears in it and peaches, and obviously the spice and the oak is there. It's quite strong. You get kind of like creosote a bit once you've boiled it down a little bit on the nose.
I always get like a lime with Lafroig as well, like a really strong citrus.
Yeah, maybe. I don't think that was there so much. It was more kind of like the fruits that I mentioned, I think.
The creosote, though, definitely. Like,
oh, yeah,
TCP.
definitely. Oh, what I did get was before I watered it down, I got kind of like cooked ham and mustard on the nose, right? Yeah, so it was a mixture between kind of meaty and fruity. And I think it was like 50 quid. I'm glad I got a bottle of that. And interesting what you said. Yeah, I agree. I think it's probably Lafroig, right? So I don't know if that's good value or not. I guess it's not bad value. 50 quid for
what was the strength?
10-year-old. 59%.
Decent. Yeah.
Single cask.
Oh, yeah. All day long.
Yeah, exactly. So it doesn't strike me like it's a Kalila, but I'm sure people will say different. I did those blind drams.
Yes.
But we'll come to that. Hang on, before we get to that, my highlight of the week was spotting that mega deal on Waitrose Cellar for Loch Lomond 18.
I'm really glad that you text me straight away before you put it on social media. Really glad.
Well, I just thought, look, listen, the truth is, Mike, I just didn't want to put your your nose out. So I don't know, like everyone, people, maybe I should, I like to have a bum fight for it on social media. So, but anyway, what was it? You've got to turn off notifications, haven't you, Mike? Was it 58 quid down from 90? I think the cheapest I've seen it is £85. With the Brian, or we're regularly mentioning Brian now. His little Brian's Corner. So Brian did a great blog article recently about
18-year-olds.
18-year-olds
whiskey,
and also core range whiskey, right? 18-year-old whiskey and the changing prices and how Dalmore's gone up like ridiculously. And I think the only one to go down in price was Tom and Tall, was it maybe?
Might have been Tom and Tall.
But the point is, some of them didn't go up that much because they went up so much a year prior. Yeah. But it's very hard. You look at those prices, it's hard to see how, looking at what the 25 Loch Lomond Glen Scotia charge for, it's hard to see that the 18 isn't going to go up at some point. But regardless of that, take money out of it. I just really like it. 58 quid is a bargain.
58 quid is a steal. Were you expecting a cancellation email?
No, not really, because it was clearance. They said they want to get rid of it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like an accidental offer. They're like, clearance, we're going to get rid of it. So I assume that's probably, it's the latest bottle though, so it's confusing. I can only think that supermarkets are struggling, and like wine retailers who specialize in wine really are struggling to sell higher priced whiskey now.
Probably, I would say so.
In enough volume to satisfy them, right? Because maybe like Lagavulins like 80 quid now. You know, it's supposed to be £80, but maybe that sells still, and maybe some of your Macallan sell, but maybe the other stuff just isn't shifting in the volume that they need it to, except, you know, your core range 12s and stuff. So anyway, that was a win. A few people picked that up. Got a couple for the cupboards. So
hopefully they take pictures and tag the pod.
Did I take pictures and tag the pod?
Hopefully they do.
I don't. Yeah, but it was from me, not the pod. I mean,
hey, you are one being now.
We're at one. We're at one together.
There's
now.
a dimensional link.
Yeah. So before we get to the blind drums thing, what's been on my nerves? It's been 10 days. Can feel like an eternity, can't it? In between podding,
just
like
a
really
little bit,
forever. So I went to a wedding, and it was a real reminder how if you're going to do a wedding speech, you've got to make it funny.
Oh, was it a bad one?
3 bad ones. One decent one.
Are they listeners to the pod?
No, they're
Good.
not.
Reveal all.
Yeah. Oh dear, I have to probably be a little bit careful.
What, just no prep or just really rubbish jokes?
Well, in joke, like, so it was one where they were telling like in jokes, but the in jokes were so in that only 3 people out of about 100 guests were actually got it. They were like talking to like one table. There was a lot of mumbling going on, and then sort of overly gushing as well. There's too much, you know. Not everyone's in love with that person.
Yeah.
You know, the point is, my main advice would be if you're going to do a wedding speech, however you do it, borrow the jokes, come up with your own. Whatever.
Got to make it personal,
gotta make it
but also
personal, entertaining.
Yeah, everyone in the room
not
has
too
to
long.
engage with it.
Yeah, like that's the first rule of doing any like when you're doing any kind of speeches, it has to be content that everyone can engage with, right? So,
and you need one joke that's like pretty dirty, but is still on that borderline of okay. It just like a couple of people might tip over to think it's too much.
It was all too clean. It was all too
you
clean.
gotta go.
Yeah,
you gotta have a bit of blue.
And,
gotta have a bit of blue.
No, there was none of that. It was. It's in. We're talking bottom 5 all the time for me, right?
What, all 3 of them?
And it was a really hot day. It was like the day was like 31 degrees, right? So I'm like sweating, like a shirt stuck to me, and you're just going, "Come on, save me!"
Just hurry up, get this stuff over with.
Okay, full disclosure, it was my cousin's wedding,
but
but he was actually reasonably funny. So
good.
Fair play
That's
to
your
him.
get out of jail free card. Yeah, the person that may listen to the pod was half decent. What he's going to edit out that he said you were absolutely rubbish.
Yeah, the other thing that's been getting on my nerves, I mean, really getting on my nerves, is just having a perfect back. Just
I thought you were supposed to be the positive one. I'm the negative one this week. I'm playing Duncan this week. You're supposed to be playing me.
Yeah. No, it's mostly been a good few days, really, to be honest, isn't it? Eva started school, so happy days. She seems to be really happy going to school.
Job done.
Everything's good. Yeah. So let's get onto these blind drams.
Yes. So I sent you 3 drams. Obviously just labelled about 1, 2, 3. Didn't tell you anything about them. Didn't send you any pictures. You've got no idea what context I was doing anything. And
yeah, I felt.
Yeah, I felt dirty. Just wanted to see which one was the best in your opinion, and see how you react to what they are. So
I think my favourite one was probably 2, then 1, then 3.
2, 1, 3.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. So your favourite dram? Do you want to know?
Yeah, go on. Then you tell me what it is, and then I'll tell you what I have written down.
Because you've got all your notes and stuff written down, yeah.
Well, I didn't write down that much. I did them. To be clear, I had them when I was having a fun night. I didn't do them like in the at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Saturday with like a clear palate.
Did you sip them or did you just do shots with it? Like, yeah.
Dram 3 went in the eye.
Yeah, fair. Probably the best place for it.
No, I tasted them and stuff in a proper glass.
All right. Yeah. Well, your favourite, which was Blind Dram 2, was a 1970s famous grouse Italian export. That was a 43% bottling. Picked it up on auction a while ago. That was
really good.
Yeah, really decent. Really decent.
I'd written down lighter, still sherried, kind of fruity and floral. Yeah. I'd written down. Really liked it. I put maybe 10 to 15-year-old.
There we go. Probably correct, to be fair. At that time, they were doing bottling older stuff.
I also felt like it had some like I'd put down. Yeah, I'd written down Amarone, although obviously that's not sherry cask, but it was quite sweet, but in a good way, right? That was really interesting. Okay, thanks. Let me try that one. Wow,
that's a good one. And then
Dram 1, I felt like tasted. It isn't now because I've tried it again, but it was in the same ballpark as the Glen Murray Warehouse Edition 1 Oloroso cask. It isn't the same as I don't think, but it also made me think had kind of a meatiness to it. It was kind of sort of a meaty sherry dram. I don't know, like Craig Lucky or something like that. Craig Lucky. Are you lucky? Go on then.
Took a full drink on Monday. There. So blind dram 1 was, you're going to go, you said Glen Moray. It's actually Cutty Sark Prohibition, the overproof version. So same distillery sort of company, essentially.
Okay, so same distiller, but blend versus...
Made by La Martinique. La Martinique. Remember that? Yeah, I wrote it down.
So what ABV was that then?
50%.
So I thought that was a sort of 8 to 12-year-old range, which I guess probably is on blend, but maybe it's got some older stuff and some younger stuff.
But obviously I think that was 25 quid a bottle. And that was the Jeff Whiskey recommendation.
Yeah, it's good value, that
Mega.
one. Good value. Yeah.
So
does it mean are they all blends then?
No. Your least favourite
Dram 3 then?
Was the 2023 Glengoyne Teapot Dram.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I felt that was
58.9%.
A little hard to tell what it was. I found it quite confusing, very fruity.
So that's what I didn't get on with initially when I first tried it, but it did grow on me.
I felt like it was a mixture between for me felt like a mixture between sherry and red wine casks if you do like both and then chuck them all back in together. But obviously it isn't that, it's just sherry only.
Sherry. Right? Yeah.
Okay.
Don't know why I'm singing so much tonight, sorry. It's the Mets.
I haven't tried that one. Okay, that was really good.
Well, you have.
Thanks.
It was your third favourite.
One. So I preferred the favourite was the 1970s famous grouse.
Yeah, just an Italian export, so slightly higher ABV.
Damn, that was good.
43%.
What did you pay for that?
Oh, I got it, I reckon 4 years ago or so in an auction. Like, you know, when just the auction's finishing and no one's bid on something. I think I chucked like 15 quid on it or something. So always worth looking at those older, higher proofed Italian exports because Italy used to bang like the whiskey down. Loads of stuff got overproofed and sent out there.
So like any overproofed Italian export, sort of 70s.
70s, probably, 70s.
80s a bit sketchy, isn't it? 70s, 60s and 70s. Yeah. 60s and 70s are a better period.
And bigger bottles, the 750s.
You're winning. And the other thing that stood out to me in the last 10 days, post Blend It, Michael Henry, was the chat about headspace in bottles really shook me up. But also, having talked with other people, I don't know how you've got such a straight face on. So with the amount of bottles you've got. So I had a look in the cupboard. It was when we were talking to Michael and he said, and I said 6 months, 3 months. And then he was like, pause and he went, 1 month.
If it hits 2/3 gone, you got a month. Yeah.
Drink responsibly. But I got rid of a couple of bottles just because of that, and I've got it down to, I think I've got like 2 left now with a wee bit left in them, and I'm going to get rid of those, and I'm going to be a bit more careful again because I used to have a strict sort of 10 to 15 open bottles rule.
I had that once.
That's jumped up to sort of 20 to 25 bottles, and that's when it gets a bit like you end up with just odds and ends here and there, right?
Love it. Yeah. No. Yeah. To be fair, I haven't got that much this all the way down. I got some. Now I'm looking and go, I need to finish those. But yeah, nothing too low. I try and just knock them out of the park once they're killable.
We're going to make some more sound bites for the pod. And so this is really more of a request to listeners. Stuff that would work really well if it was in Street Fighter, like American, or American, or is it Cacto King Creek? How do you say it?
Catocting
Catocting Creek, like that. So we're looking for any shouts from people who can think of really good distillery names that will work, like a Street Fighter soundbite, because we're going to record some of those. So just hit us up online if you can think of anything other than Ardnamurchan or Catoctin.
Or any other like famous video games, Catoctin Creek.
Yeah, I guess it could be like Double Dragon related, or like it doesn't have to be. It could be Tekken. It doesn't have to be Street Fighter only, does it? Yeah, I mean, I was thinking Street Fighter, but
I laughed my head off when you sent me that idea. I thought it was so good. Ardnamurchan!
Ardnamurchan!
Like, if that doesn't appear in an advertising campaign, I'll be fuming because that's so good.
Yeah. Ardnamurchan!
Yeah, and we only need 10%.
Yeah, that's all we want. Just 10. Yeah, don't be greedy. 10% is fine. Split that between us. Yeah, so any listeners' material this week, Mike? From
yes, I did get contacted. So someone chased me up about a few other bits and then dropped in that he's got a story about sneaking stuff into the house now. I won't name his name because obviously we never like to reveal
we have to give him a pseudonym.
Identities. I'm going to call this person Frank because everyone likes to talk to Frank.
He's got to have a surname. Can't just be Frank, can he?
Well, if you know Frank, that's it.
Frank Lampard?
Yeah.
Frankie goes to Hollywood.
Everton manager, Frank Lampard, messaged me.
Okay, so Lampers.
Big Lampy. Messaged me.
He's not up to much these days, to be fair, is he? So
no. He's got a lot of time on his hands. But so Frank messaged and said that it was a little sneaky whiskey delivery story. And basically says that he's no longer allowed to get whiskey delivered to the house and has to have it all sent to the office. He's got his own, running his own company. So he keeps all his whiskey at the storage unit and then has to try and sneak it back into his car and then back into his house as well. So it wasn't just me sneaking stuff into the car. Now, I won't elaborate too much, but Frank's employment, he makes fun devices that you might have in a bedside drawer. I'll let your imagination run wild. And what made me laugh...
He is offices and orifices.
Yes.
What you're sort of saying.
What made me laugh is that Frank was stressing about sneaking whiskey into the house when on a day-to-day basis, stuff he makes is like having the same effect on all his customers as they might be trying to sneak devices into their house. So massive shout out to Frank. Thank you for contacting me. You know who you are. And I loved that story and it made me chuckle.
Oh my days, I think you're blushing.
I look like an Oompa in this light, I'll be fair.
So does Frank listen to the pod then? I assume
Frank
he does
listen to the pod. He contacted me saying I listened to the pod. Just had a few other inquiries around other matters. But yeah.
So Frank, this is a shout out for you. Let's get physical, physical. That's all I can think of.
It's good.
Listener's Corner. It's come from a retired lady, and Juliette Lewis. So not the movie star Juliette Lewis, another Juliette Lewis. And it turns out that her husband doesn't like whiskey, been together for years. So what she does is she sends him to the pub to drink Foster's so she can sneak a dram in at home. Which I think is quite impressive. And she has to smuggle bottles back into, because he doesn't understand her whiskey habit, right? So he has to smuggle bottles back in when she's been out swimming in the week, back in a swimming bag, and then she decants them into like fancy kind of jar thing that's like
a decanter
in the cupboards. Yeah, well, like a decanter, but not like a sort of coffee type decanter thing, but it's obviously all sealed. And then she has a dram when she's sent into the pub.
The lengths we have to go to for this hobby.
Yeah. So thanks very much, Juliette Lewis.
Thank you very much.
Appreciated.
My advice.
Yeah, it's nice to have a lady story.
Find yourself a whiskey loving gentleman. Make your life easier, or lady.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Or just separate, and then you can do whatever you want. Right.
That's what I meant.
Yeah. Okay, so on to the main subject of the pod then today, Mike. Two Puds, which is about dice, right? So I made a recommendation to you to read or listen, and you've chosen to listen
Obviously.
to the book. The author is Luke Reinhardt, and the book is called
The Dice Man.
The Dice Man. It's a bit of a dark book, really, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm a bit sort of weary of you now, having listened to it, because it was your recommendation, and it's basically a tale of an absolute psychopath.
Well, I read it, a long time ago.
I didn't know where it was going, and it went pretty dark, pretty damn quickly, and maintained that level throughout, I would say.
But if you're able to separate, so I haven't read it for a really long time, and I do remember the really dark bits in the book, so it's not really about that. Although it does seem to be that whenever people decide to sort of use dice to make decisions, it always seems to be for dark reasons. Like, also in that episode of Luther where they use like dice to like make really. So my main plea here would be dice can be used to make fun, nice decisions. They don't have to be used to make, dark decisions. But the fundamental thing in Dice Man is he sort of reasons that any time you, even just like 1%, if you might want to do something wacky like whack somebody, right? And 10% if you want to have an ice cream, and 20% if you want to have a sleep, and 30% wants to actually do the work you're supposed to do, and the remaining wants to sit and pour a glass of whiskey, right? So he just would associate the odds to the dice and then roll the dice, and therefore he's taking the decision-making process out of his hands. So you're kind of, how would you put it? Like you're handing over
you're handing over the responsibility to fate. But the sort of key clincher of the book is that it's not down to fate, because you're ultimately the one that's choosing the outcomes. So
you're pulling the strings, right?
Because you could go, well, I want a banana instead of having a whiskey in there. But if you're selecting whiskey, it means you're open for a whiskey. So it was a really good book, thought provoking, but absolutely dark. And
super dark, but thought provoking, right? So what have we done? Well, what have you done? I mean, your dice decisions would have been water or water, right?
Mine was, do I lay down straight on my back, or go into the fetal position on the left, or the fetal position on the right?
Will you treat yourself to open up your toes or keep them closed?
Do you cry or not cry today?
Well, I've rolled a 5 and a 6. I'm going to allow myself a wee cry.
But no, so I haven't really used this, obviously, throughout this period.
But you did listen to the audiobook, though. So
because I had a lot of time on my hands. But I thought, I've got a virtual dice now loaded up on Google, so I'm going to let it decide what dram I have, because I've got two next to me. So I've got an old Benroma Cast Strength, one of the original ones from 2009, and then the Jameson single pot still, which is the higher strength. I think it is 46%. So
nice.
If it's even, I'm going to be going for the Jamesons, and if it's odds, it's Benroma. I'm rolling. It's a 3. I'm going for the Benroma Cast Strength. Now, this is a stunning dram. It's probably up there with Springbank 10, but it's available and it's really good value. So that's going to be my little hint for anyone. I know you've mentioned it previously, but if you want a good value dram, you can't get Springbank. Another alternative, Benroma. Absolutely flavorful, dirty, lovely.
I do like a Benroma. Mike's celebrating because some people have requested not to big up Benroma too much. Like
people don't want
it's going to happen.
People don't want the secret out of the bag. That Benroma Cast Strength is absolutely amazing. Sadly, we're here for you people. So, get it while you can at a good price before it goes up.
I will allow the dice to make a decision as to whether I have another dram or not. So I'll say on an even, I will move on from this old Goonsies malt Mannockmore 13-year-old to an and I rolled a 6. So that means a yes, doesn't it? There we go. So I've used the dice to make decisions for the last 10 days-ish.
Have you done any mental ones? Like any sort of like, is it day-to-day decisions you've been doing?
No, mostly decisions around whiskey and stuff. Not like, not full-on life decisions. Like you said, you're in control of what you're going to, but anything whiskey-related, I've used the dice to make decisions. So this included how many bottles of that Lot Lomond 18 to buy. I rolled a dice.
No way.
3. I bought 3.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah. And then Tom was online out saying what, you got 3, you greedy. And I was like, well, I did find it. It was my link. I found it. But yeah, the dice told me to buy 3.
Not
so
your fault, mate.
it's not my
Not your
fault, is
fault.
it? It's not my fault. And someone else would have just bought them all anyway, probably. I'm sure with those kind of things, when people go, oh, it's sold out, it's because a bunch of us bought 1 or 2, and in my case, 3. Yeah. But because one person out there bought like 20,
guarantee,
right, and they're going to put 1 in. They're going to put 1 in auction, or 50, and they're going to put 1 in auction for the next the next 50 auctions,
and
right? Make £10.
£4 a bottle.
Yeah, so it's like, well, whatever, probably a tenner or whatever. Anyway, so I got 3. What else? I used the dice to decide whether to bid on bottles at auction.
Oh, did you?
Legitimately, yeah. Which was actually a bit of a shame because it came to the end of Scottish whisky auctions, which is my favourite one. And the dice said no, don't bid anymore.
That's good though.
Yeah. So, but I used it on the Sunday to play some bids midday. So the dice was like, yeah, get involved.
Get involved, buddy.
Well, so you can roll a dice to say should I bid or not, and then how much to bid. Yeah. So I place the second odd, the odds on what I'm going to, how much to bid onto the next dice. So I did that, but that meant that I had a pretty uneventful Scotch whisky auctions because the dice kind of blocked me doing any sniping at like 10.55 or whatever it is.
The universe has spoken, mate.
Yeah, so I got nothing from this one.
Hey,
because of the dice.
Maybe it was meant to happen.
Yeah. I used the dice to make the decision to buy the Master of Malt Secret Isla. Yeah. But it was it was literally 1, 2, 3, no, 4, 5, 6, yes. Yeah. It was it was 50-50. Because that's how I felt about it. I was like, well, 50-50, I want this. Yeah. In the end, probably the right decision. And I've used it to make a decision about what to have. I did have one day where I think I asked the dice 3 times and the dice said no every single time.
Oh, really?
To have in a whiskey. Yeah, so I didn't have any whiskey on that day. But on the other days, the dice have been very generous.
Oh, yeah, super generous.
Yeah, super
Crawling
generous.
Upstairs.
Yeah, so I think also I've tended to have a whiskey sort of earlier in the day because I'm getting up earlier now. So I would have a whiskey sort of early evening, right? And maybe like finish, 8 o'clock or whatever, and then nothing late, and because I'm getting up earlier. So that's been a bit of a change.
Making you feel a bit fresher in the AM?
Yeah, kind of. I do think like it's been fun for a few days to let the dice make decisions, really, particularly around whiskey. I don't know if I'll continue it. What it did remind me of, though, is it's just fun rolling dice because I don't play really board games anymore. And it's kind of fun to just sort of have a dice like knocking around in your pocket. And
have you dusted off the Monopoly?
I had to steal one. So I stole one from Trivial Pursuit.
No.
So 6 is like a triangle.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Pyramid.
Yeah, pyramid. No, triangle. What do you call it? It's like the cheese, isn't it?
Dairy Lee.
No, in Trivial Pursuit, it's the little triangle that you get.
Oh,
is that what is it called? Yeah, you get the little triangle segments. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's been fine. I might use it in future, maybe, but I don't know.
You should do it like when you take it out to the pub, because like it'll just help. People will think you're absolutely mad. I'm gonna have a pint of beer on 1. I'm gonna have a gin and tonic on 2. Blah 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 blah.
If you're gonna do it, definitely get down on your knees with a little notepad in the middle of like the pub floor, and just get the dice out and say a little ritual, and then roll the dice, and then afterwards go. But
you have to have your tongue out when you're writing them down and stuck to the side. Yeah. And put the dice in your mouth, spit it out in the air so it lands.
I did use the dice to make a decision as to whether to go to the pub when I was invited by somebody. Yeah. So I let the dice decide on that as well.
Did you go to the pub?
Dice said yes, and the dice also said yes to drinking bad alcohol, which was really disappointing.
Yeah. Straight on the Fosters.
Yeah, I think I gave it like 1 and a 2, and I would be firm.
Yeah.
So 1, I wasn't that strong. I was like on a roll of a 1 or 2, I will say no, and I'll just have like Diet Coke or something. 3 to 6, I'll drink this rubbish cause or something like that. Yeah, and the dice.
So you made more numbers, did you say, for the bigger?
Well, for the choice of beer, choice of a
whiskey. 1 and 2 for.
Well, in that case, I just did 1 and 2 was I'm going to drink Diet Coke, and 3 to 6 I'll drink beer with the rest of them, because it's quite hard to drink Diet Coke.
Better odds to go with.
Yeah, you decide the odds exactly like you said. So mostly I've done kind of 50-50 stuff, like odds or evens for whiskey. Like evens is have a dram, odds isn't, and then 1 to 3 is this bottle, 4 to 6 is that bottle. if I roll a 6, finish the bottle off. That type of stuff. Yeah. I'll keep the dice to one side maybe and use it to make decisions when I get stuck in future.
You know what? That would actually be like a really good night out. Just to let the dice decide what you drink, where you go.
Oh, where you go?
Yeah, we should have a night out on the dice.
So you just get the map out. And you say, okay, there's 3 pubs.
Yeah.
Right, and then you let the dice decide which pub you're going to. Right. Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And then also whether you're going to have short, pint, or whatever, you could let the dice decide
completely.
That as well.
Like red wine, white wine, Guinness, Stella, whiskey, and then some random.
We could have an honest to malt dice night out.
Yeah, we get some branded dice, sell them, make a fortune.
Yeah,
this time next year, Rodney.
Yeah, this time next year, right? But anyway, it was a good little experiment, wasn't it?
That's decent. I like that.
So, what have we got coming up in? We know we've got soon. Graham from Dingle coming on. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Also, we might have
international guests fairly well as well.
International. Is that confirmed? Is it?
I was thinking what you talked about.
Oh yeah. So So somebody else very well known international distiller, a huge story and lots of sort of idolised a bit by people. They've agreed to come on as well. So that's 2 very exciting guests. And what about the short-term mic, Two Puds? Is there any kind of...
We have another guest, someone...
That's 3 guest lineup. It's already getting a bit overwhelming.
A daily radio presenter in the UK.
Right. Is that definite, though?
Definite.
Okay.
Yeah, that is 100%. We've sent him some drams. Oh, I've said him. I've already revealed something. You might guess it. So we've sent him some whiskies and we're going to talk through it and, try and just broaden his horizons with what to get out of whiskey. So that could be good, hopefully.
Excellent. We're also still in search of a vicar or rabbi or any person of cloth of some kind, but not snooker
or a
players.
reverend that hasn't got an agent.
Yeah. And preferably, is into whiskey as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you we've had a couple of recommendations, but if you know of anybody else, then just let us know. Yeah. We should also mention the Oswaz has come out recently? Is it the Online Scotch Whisky Awards run by Roy and Ralphie? Right. So,
the gatekeepers.
Yeah. And so it's good to see that kicking off again. I think people are getting very excited about that.
It's 3rd year, I believe. I think it is 3rd year.
Absolutely.
It's a good watch.
It's also worth shouting out the V-Pub, which I don't think we've shouted out before, or have we?
Don't know. We should.
We should do so, shouldn't we? I think if you're really if you're like super into your the detail around whiskey, then Roy, how do you say it? Is it Aquavitae? Aquavitae.
The water of life.
So the water of life, yeah. So Aquavitae, Roy runs a V-Pub on Thursdays generally.
Yeah.
Except from the summers, about 9:45 on a Thursday. Yeah. Sometimes we go and hop in that and have a little listen and have a dram with everybody else. I often bow out before the quiz just because it gets a bit late for me, but I'm always in there. I'm usually in there for the first hour or so. So big shout out to Roy.
I like to stay on for the quiz and give myself half marks, quarter marks, because it really annoys people in there as well. So, it is worthwhile. The quiz is like, I don't know how people get a 10 out of 10 without cheating. A lot of them are like...
Because they use their phones.
Maybe.
We talked about this on the pod before, and people just using their phones
cheaters
to cheat.
But it's good. But really detailed session. He's live. He has guests occasionally. If you haven't already, check it out. I think when he's doing it, you probably get about 300 people minimum live.
It's about 300 to 400 people.
Think of it. That's this insane amount of people to watch.
It's a packed
YouTube
pub.
live.
Very packed pub.
It's a good pub.
So it sounds to me like we've got a really good run into Christmas. So looking forward to it. Again, thanks to everyone for listening. And the next episode will be next week.
Yes. Right? Yep. He's looking at me in case my back goes again. But as it stands, yes, we're all good.
As it stands,
we're all good. I like it when you start really quiet.